In a March 7th press conference on China's foreign policy, Chinese State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang said China is willing to contribute to the durable stability and security of Afghanistan. He added that China is preparing for the third foreign ministers' meeting of countries neighboring Afghanistan. At the same time, he urged the United States to immediately lift the freeze on Afghanistan's assets and various unilateral sanctions. How has Afghanistan changed since the Taliban returned to power last year? And what role could China play in the region's peace and stability? Welcome to this special edition of The Point with me, Li Xin, coming to you from Beijing. Earlier, I talked to former Afghan President Hamid Karzai, who joined me from Kabul, Afghanistan. Welcome to The Point, Your Excellency, Mr. Karzai. It's a great pleasure to have you back on the show again. My first question, when the Taliban took over Afghanistan last August, you chose to stay and you chose to initiate talks and, with neighboring countries, organizations for peace and well-being of the country, for the future of your country. What was your consideration, and do you regret it?
No, not at all. Ma'am, Afghanistan is our home, and we have to build it together. The reason I stayed was because, especially in times of difficulties, one has to stay and be in one's home and make it better. I hope that all other Afghans who have left will come back. And I hope that the current interim government will undertake initiatives, effective ones, to invite and bring back all those Afghans so we can together, through a consultative process and through the expression of the will of the Afghan people, take formidable steps towards a peaceful, better future.
How is the situation now that we are a couple of months already since that very tumultuous period of time? Are you getting more confidence that you made the right choice?
I'm very happy that I have said yes, but as far as the situation is concerned, there is relative peace. There is a general sense of less organized violence around the country. But there is also, unfortunately, increasing unemployment, increasing poverty. The economy is suffering, and that is mainly because thousands and thousands of educated Afghans have left the country and are still leaving the country. And there is this issue of the banks not working and the restrictions on the banking systems. And you heard of the withdrawal of the seizure of the Afghan assets by the US government. So a combination of factors are not working all right for the well-being and the economy of the country. That has to be corrected, and that too requires an entire Afghan decision and, of course, cooperation from our friends to make it better.
How do you rate the efforts of the Taliban government so far? Although the situation is not good at this moment, do you think they have a genuine interest in making it work? They are doing what they can?
This is also their country. This country belongs to all Afghans. The Taliban are part of Afghanistan, as are all the other Afghan people, from all walks of life and from all parts of the country, from all people of the country. We all belong to this country, and it is our patriotic duty to make this country better. I'm sure there are great many within the current government and the Taliban who see things the way all other Afghans do. But in order for good intentions to be turned into good action, one needs certain initiatives. One of the initiatives that I spoke about earlier is that all Afghans must be called upon and must be given the protection and the surety that they can come back to their country, they can find jobs in their own country, they can work in their country. This means a few categories of people especially. The first category is those elements who see themselves in opposition to the Taliban for various reasons. They have a voice, they have a say, and they must be contacted and must be brought back to a political process. The second is those Afghans who have left either because of hopelessness or because of fear or because of lack of opportunities now in our country. They must be brought back, and they must be given every opportunity to re-seek employment in government offices and in the private sector. The third category, extremely important, is the Afghan women. Afghanistan has made immense progress in the past many years, and this progress cannot be reversed. The Afghan women are part of this country and an important part of a more better doing Afghanistan. So this is one extremely important component of putting good intentions into action. And then there is the question of gaining legitimacy within the country through a political process. Afghanistan is culturally a very rich country in terms of the political processes that we have. One of those processes is the lower jerg of the country, the Grand Council of the Afghan people, the constitution of the country, the future running of the government of the country, the way of life that we must live under the law that we must adopt for ourselves has to be taken to the Afghan people in a process that is recognized by the Afghans and by the international community. And then the country will certainly move forward in stability and cohesion and unity, which is extremely important for us, for any country, as a matter of fact.
Sure. Do you think the kind of assurances or reassurances are being sent out, or according to the performance of the Taliban by now, they are sending out the right signals to the three groups of extremely important people you mentioned to come back, that they will be secure so that they can contribute to the stabilization of their country?
Some steps have been taken, but then we need more steps in order for the country to see that there is a political process going on, that there is a process of returning the institutions to normal functioning, that there is the opening up of the economy. So the country needs, at this stage, to put it in a very short phrase, an environment that provides psychological security and physical security. These two elements put together, the psychological security and the physical security for the people of Afghanistan, will enable people to come. That requires a political process, and that requires certain measures that are recognizable around the world and in Afghanistan for the economy to return to function. For example, we need to prove to the world that the Central Bank of Afghanistan is independent, completely independent, and that it engages with the rest of the world for exchanges and for the monetary stability in Afghanistan. That will also ensure that we take up our issue with the US government for the assets that they have withdrawn from Afghanistan and get those assets back to the country. So we need to have institutional strength and political unity and a political process to take us there.
Let's talk about the position and the role China has been holding. Chinese State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi, when meeting with a senior official from the Taliban in October last year, he said that China always respects the sovereignty, independence and territorial integrity of Afghanistan and supports the Afghan people to independently decide their country's destiny and choose their own development path. What do you think is the significance of this in terms of achieving the kind of legitimacy and stabilization you were mentioning?
China is a neighbor of Afghanistan, and China has been a very close neighbor of Afghanistan, one that has respected Afghanistan's independence and Afghanistan's sovereignty and has been doing all it could to help Afghanistan. China is also a great power, a very great power, a superpower. It has impact around the world. It has the abilities to bring Afghanistan to betterment, to a better life. China is also a very, 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 very close friend of our neighbor, Pakistan. Pakistan and China have strategic relations. There are issues between Afghanistan and Pakistan that need to be settled. We wish to have a good relationship with Pakistan, one that's based on civility, one that's based on a civilized exchange between the two countries. So China's role in Afghanistan, towards Afghanistan, it can be defined in three different ways. Relations between the two of us, China and Afghanistan, both economic and political, is very good. The Afghan people trust China very, very much. And that trust can be used very well by China to further this relationship and to bring the help that Afghanistan needs for its economic well-being and stability. China is also internationally a very powerful player, a power that can engage all over the world for the well-being of Afghanistan and this region. And China, as a great friend of Pakistan, can also play a significant role, which has been, even during my time in government, asking China to do. So Chinese role in Afghanistan is significantly important, and we are glad to have had such a good neighbor and such a good friend. And we are thanking China for the help that it has given to Afghanistan and the intentions towards more assistance and economic engagement that it has for Afghanistan.
In terms of the future, there has been some kind of worry among some people in the United States, for instance, that now that the U.S. troops have withdrawn, that China is ready to fill in the blank or fill in the vacuum and assert itself as one of the biggest influencer, external influencer. While others say it's not possible. Pakistan will continue to have a very strong influence over Afghanistan, and so on and so forth. How do you look at that discussion? What do you think is the future of China's relationship with Afghanistan?
Well, China has not been playing rivalry with America in Afghanistan, and we are very thankful for that. I am witness to that during my time in office. The Chinese leadership constantly encouraged good relations between Afghanistan and the rest of the world. They never, ever mentioned the United States other than in good terms to me. They encouraged great relationship with America, and then China is also together with the rest of the world in fighting extremism and radicalism, because of which this region, because of which Afghanistan, because of which Pakistan, because of which India, because of which China and Central Asia are suffering, and so is Iran and others. Therefore, Chinese presence in Afghanistan is not trying to fill a vacuum that someone else has left behind, but it is there to help Afghanistan to advance a good cause. This I can say with certainty because I've been a witness to this, as China has been a very responsible partner with Afghanistan and one with good intentions. As for Pakistan is concerned, we do want the best of relations with Pakistan. It's a neighborly country, it's a brotherly country. We believe that it's now time for the three countries and for the larger region to get together in addressing the issue of extremism and finding a path towards a future in which we don't suffer at the hands of extremists or terrorist activities in the whole of this region.
But talking about fighting terrorism, talking about helping businesses, you know, the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative is a very important initiative, and Afghanistan is a very important place in that blueprint. What kind of environment can Chinese businesses look forward to in Afghanistan under the Taliban? Is the Taliban able to rein in terrorism so that not only China does not feel threatened by extremism, separatism from its western point through Afghanistan, but also for Chinese businesses to continue and expand their investment in Afghanistan?
Well, China has every right to seek a neighborhood that is free from extremism, and that it provides a conducive environment to relationship and business with Afghanistan and with the rest of the region. The Belt and Road Initiative we fully support. This initiative can bring much good to this region and to Afghanistan. During my time in office, the biggest economic contract, the copper mines of Wang, was signed with China. We hope that that will be fulfilled, and we hope that with Afghanistan, moving through a process of legitimacy within the country and engagement with the rest of the world, will also be able to further its relationship with China in all areas of life, in economic activities, in exchanges of goods and technology, and also in a strong political relationship with China. So the foundation for us is that Afghanistan will be the biggest beneficiary of a stable region and of a strong and developing China, one that has the Belt and Road Initiative moving forward, one that has the connectivity initiatives in this region moving forward. We are a great, great, great region, and the opportunities are as great as this region is.
Mr. Karzai, it really wonders me. I'm very, very curious, because so far you have been talking about we, you have been using we. I understand you are ex-president of Afghanistan. How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as an advisor, a de facto advisor to the Taliban government, or do you see yourself as a voice of the Afghan people? Or when you talk about we, exactly who are you representing here? I have to get it out of my mind.
Yes. No, I'm not representing anybody. I'm a citizen of Afghanistan, and I speak of my aspirations as the citizen of Afghanistan. I'm not an advisor to the Taliban. I'm a citizen who wants Afghanistan to do well, and who wants to have the best of relations with in this region and beyond, and who sees also China as a great neighbor and a great opportunity for the Afghan people.
Let's talk about the funds that is very much hanging on the line in the U.S. hands. $7 billion Afghan asset, but kept in the United States. Now, the U.S. government has decided to keep half of that for the benefit of the Afghan people, quote unquote, and half of that to be used for compensation for the 9/11 attacks victims. You had very strong word for that. You called it an atrocity. Help us understand exactly what makes you so angry, and what do you think of the U.S. logic of holding Afghanistan accountable for the 9/11 attacks?
We, the people of Afghanistan, entirely commiserate with the victims of the tragedy of 9/11. Those people of the United States who lost their lives in America are clearly victims on that day, the day of 9/11. The Afghan people have been victims for a much longer time before the incident or the tragedy of September 11 in New York. And we have been victims since then as well. So the Afghans are, I believe, in the whole world, the greatest sufferers at the hands of extremism and terrorism. And the reason the United States engaged with Afghanistan was precisely for that reason, that we were victims and that those in New York were victims. So to take resources away from one victim in the name of another victim is injustice itself and an atrocity. The money, the $7 billion that was kept in U.S. reserves, in U.S. banks, much of that money was collected during my time in office. But that money does not belong to any government. That did not belong to my government, that did not belong to the subsequent government, that does not belong to the current Taliban government. None of these governments are the owners of that money. The owner of that money is the Afghan people. The Afghan people are the owners of the money. And the United States of America must not be punishing the Afghan people, the people that they called allies and friends. Therefore, it is wrong, it is not justified. And I'm glad to note that in the United States itself, there is tremendous opposition to this action. And I've also seen Chinese statements and Russian statements and statements from the rest of the world as well, and from ex-officials in Europe as well, denouncing the statement. My hope is, and I would ask President Biden to rescind his decision, to reconsider, and to let that money belong to the Afghan people. Now, this does not mean that the money should be sent to us so we can spend it. No. This money is as a surety for Afghan monetary policy. This is a backup for our currency. This belongs to the current generation and to the future generations. This money has to be added to by the Afghan people into the future and must be kept secure and well for Afghanistan.
Well, some people are arguing, actually a guest on my show was arguing that, look, the Taliban is not recognized, it doesn't have a great record of governance, it's known for being corrupt, that was the word they were using. So maybe it is better for the benefit of the Afghan people, quote unquote, once again, that it is better for the United States to manage humanitarian aid for Afghanistan.
This money cannot be used and should not be used for humanitarian aid. This money is the reserves of the Afghan people. It is not for salaries or for buying things, for the daily use of our country. We collected this money as a nation in order to have a strong backup to our currency, in order to have an effective tool for our monetary policies, for abilities to exchange with other financial institutions in the world, and to trade better. Not for our daily use. So this money cannot be assigned. And as I understand, as the U.S. officials have explained this to me, they don't intend that either. So the issue is not that this money will be given to humanitarian assistance now. That has been resolved. The issue is this, that we want the totality of this money, the $7 billion, to be kept intact for the Central Bank of Afghanistan, and that the Central Bank of Afghanistan should not allow it to be used for daily use, that this has to be kept as a reserve for the future of the country. That's what I'm saying, and that's what the expectation definitely of the Afghan people is.
I want to come back to another issue which is extremely important to many in the international community, rights of women, rights of girls to work, to be educated. You have your daughters. Are they able to receive the kind of education that's necessary? Are you seeing signs that the Taliban is making good of their promise to make progress towards protection of women's rights?
I think on the return of girls to schools, I believe that is possible. We saw the universities reopen in the warmer parts of the country, and the girls went back to universities, though in separate classes. That doesn't matter. as long as they study. We hope that, and we expect that when the schools start next month, that all the girls will return to school and study. And we hope that the quality of education will improve. Afghanistan made immense leaps in providing education to its people in the past 20 years. And China was one of those countries that helped us significantly by giving us very high quality scholarships, for which we are very, very grateful. So the issue of education for all Afghans, and especially education for girls, is of vital importance to the Afghan people, and there will not be compromise on that in any case. They must go to school, and hopefully it will happen.
Finally, you were an Afghan president for a couple of years. You saw the entire process of how the US came into Afghanistan. It was a war welcomed by the American people, also welcomed by many Afghans, and how the sentiments changed. You talked about Lawyer Jurga, and now 20 years later, looking back at the whole process, what was the biggest lesson that you think needs to be learned?
Well, the biggest lesson is that Afghanistan can only be built at the hands of Afghans, by Afghans, and that we must provide for our own country and defend our own country, and that we must be much wiser as a people in seeing what happens to the country and how we suffered at the hands of foreign intervention of all sorts. The past 20 years, Afghanistan gained in certain ways, Afghanistan lost in some ways. So there are lessons to be learned, and those lessons, I hope, will be used by all of us as a people to chart a better future for our people today and for future generations for tomorrow.
If you're asked to be an advisor for the Taliban, would you accept it?
No, I don't want to be functioning again in any government capacity. I have done my time in office. I would remain a citizen of the country, and as a citizen of the country, a private citizen of the country, and as a private citizen of the country, do all I can to make life better for Afghanistan, to make it have peace, durable peace and stability, and to see an Afghanistan that is truly the home for all Afghans, that all Afghans can find their opportunities in, that is a country that is recognized and respected by the rest of the world, and that internally it has a government that goes through the processes of legitimization and through the expression of the will of the Afghan people. So, as a citizen of Afghanistan, I want a country that is run well, that is respected beyond our borders, and that's progressing and in good relations with neighbors and beyond.
Thank you very much. I wish you and your people all the very best, and I hope I can visit Afghanistan one day, finally.
Most welcome, ma'am. Thank you very much. That was a very good talk. Thank you.
Thank you. That was my interview with former Afghan President Hamid Karzai. With that, we come to the end of this edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. As always, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter using the handle Liu Xin in Beijing. Thanks for watching. You've got The Point.